massive space station called Nexus Prime floated silently in the darkness between stars. Inside its crystal walls, beings from across the galaxy gathered around a huge viewing screen. Ambassador Vextai stood at the center of the room, his blue skin glowing softly under the station lights. His forearms moved gracefully as he pointed to the images on the screen. "Look at them," Vextai said to the other aliens in the room. "These humans think they are so clever with their little metal ships." On the screen, a small spacecraft moved slowly through space near a giant planet with swirling clouds. The ship looked tiny and fragile compared to the massive alien vessels that surrounded the viewing room. General Krellin stepped forward, his red scales catching the light. The Zephyrian warrior was twice as tall as Vextai, and his voice sounded like grinding stone. "They have barely learned to leave their home world," he growled. "Their ships move slower than our cargo vessels. Why do we waste time watching them?" Dr. Lear-On floated near the back of the room, her ethereal form shimmering like morning mist. The Etherian scientist spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Every species deserves study, General. Even primitive ones can surprise us." Vextai touched a control panel and the image on the screen changed. Now they could see inside the human ship. 3 people sat at control stations, pressing buttons and looking at small screens. The aliens in the room made sounds of amusement. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours," Vextai continued. "They still use physical controls instead of thought interfaces. They communicate with sound waves instead of direct mind contact. They even need to wear special suits to survive in space." On the human ship, Captain Jake Morrison checked his instruments one more time. The USS Liberty was his first command, and he wanted everything to be perfect. His pilot, Lisa Chang, sat to his right, her hands steady on the controls. Behind them, Danny Rodriguez worked at the engineering station while Amy Foster monitored communications. "Asteroid field coming up, Captain," Lisa reported. "Should I take us around it?" Jake shook his head. "No, we go through it. The mining company wants us to map every rock out here. They think some of these asteroids might have rare metals." Danny looked up from his station. "The shields are holding steady, Captain. We can handle anything these rocks throw at us." Amy turned in her chair. "I'm picking up some strange signals from deep space, probably just solar wind or something." The aliens watching from Nexus Prime saw none of this conversation. Their technology could observe the humans from far away, but they had no interest in listening to what the primitive beings actually said. To them, humans were like insects, barely worth noticing except as a curiosity. "Notice how they still use verbal communication," Vextai pointed out. "Our youngest children learn telepathy before they can walk, yet these adults must make noise with their mouths to share thoughts." Commander Zareth spoke from the corner of the room. The crystalline being looked like living glass, and his voice rang like a bell. "Perhaps we should make contact. The Galactic Council has protocols for new species." General Krellin laughed, a harsh sound that made the other aliens uncomfortable. "Contact? With them? They would probably try to attack us with their primitive weapons. Better to let them stay in their little corner of space until they grow up, if they ever do." On the Liberty, Jake guided his ship through the asteroid field with careful precision. The rocks were bigger than he had expected, some as large as small moons. His crew worked together smoothly, each person knowing their job and doing it well. "There's something beautiful about this," Lisa said quietly as she steered around a spinning rock covered in ice crystals. "All these ancient stones floating out here for millions of years. Beautiful and profitable," Danny added with a grin. "If these asteroids have the metals we think they do, this mining operation could change everything." Back on Earth, Amy suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I'm getting those strange signals again. They're stronger now and they seem to be coming from multiple directions." Jake frowned. "Can you identify the source?" "No, sir. It's like nothing I've ever heard before. The patterns are too complex to be natural but too organized to be random interference." What Amy was hearing were the scanning signals from dozens of alien ships, all focused on the little human vessel. The aliens had been watching Earth for months, studying human behavior and technology. They found the humans amusing but ultimately disappointing. Their ship design is particularly crude, Dr. Lyron observed. Look how they use chemical rockets for propulsion. We abandoned such methods before our planet had ice caps. Vextai nodded. And their weapons are equally primitive. Metal projectiles and explosive charges. A child with a basic energy manipulator could destroy their entire fleet. As the aliens talked, something was happening far away that would change everything. At the edge of the galaxy, sensors on automated monitoring stations began detecting strange energy readings. Something massive was moving through space, something that consumed everything in its path. The first alarm reached Nexus Prime just as the Liberty finished its survey of the asteroid field. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the station, and urgent messages flooded the communication systems. What is happening? Vextai demanded as junior officers rushed around the viewing room. Sir, we're receiving priority alerts from the outer monitoring stations, a young technician reported. Something has destroyed the Kepler research outpost. The entire system is gone. General Krellin's scales darkened to deep red. Gone? What do you mean gone? I mean completely consumed, sir. The star, the planets, everything. It's as if the entire system was eaten by something. Dr. Lyron floated closer to the main screen as images from the destroyed system appeared. Where once there had been a bright star surrounded by planets, now there was only empty space and strange energy residue. This is impossible, she whispered. Nothing in the galaxy has the power to consume an entire star system. More reports came in over the next few hours. Another system destroyed, then another. Whatever was causing the destruction was moving toward the populated regions of the galaxy, and it showed no signs of slowing down. Commander Zareth's crystalline form began to pulse with nervous energy. We need every ship, every weapon, every warrior we can find. This threat is beyond anything we've ever faced. General Krellin was already moving toward the exit. I'll contact the Zephyrian war fleets immediately. We'll need every able commander for this fight. As the aliens prepared for war, none of them thought about the primitive humans they had been watching. After all, what could a species that still used chemical rockets possibly contribute to a battle for the galaxy's survival? On the Liberty, Amy Foster was still picking up strange signals, but now they sounded different, more urgent, more desperate. She didn't know that she was hearing the first emergency broadcasts from civilizations that were about to face their greatest test. Captain Morrison gave the order to return to Earth, unaware that his species was about to receive an invitation that would change everything. 3 months after the first alien monitoring session, President Helen Carter stood in the White House Situation Room staring at a screen that showed something impossible. The message had arrived simultaneously at every major space agency on Earth, appearing on screens in Houston, Moscow, Beijing, and a dozen other locations at exactly the same moment. Ma'am, we've confirmed the transmission is genuine, reported Admiral Tom Bradley, his weathered face showing the strain of the past few hours. The quantum signature is unlike anything we've ever detected. This technology is centuries ahead of ours. Dr. Susan Phillips pushed her glasses up her nose as she studied the alien text that had somehow translated itself into perfect English, Chinese, Russian, and every other major language on Earth. The translation matrix alone represents a breakthrough we couldn't achieve for decades. Whoever sent this understands human language better than we understand it ourselves. The message was simple but earth-shattering. Ambassador Vextai's image had appeared on the screen, his blue skin and forearms making it clear that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. His words had been calm and direct. People of Earth, you are invited to join the Galactic Council as a probationary member. Your species shows potential, but you must prove your worth by contributing to the defense against a threat that endangers all civilized life. Representatives from your world will be welcomed aboard our flagship. You have 1 week to decide. Now, 3 days later, the debate still raged in government buildings around the world. Some leaders wanted to accept immediately. Others demanded more information, and a few insisted the whole thing was an elaborate hoax. The Chinese think it's an American trick, Admiral Bradley reported. The Russians think it's Chinese. Half of Europe believes it's both of us working together to gain some kind of advantage. President Carter rubbed her temples. She had been awake for nearly 60 hours straight, dealing with panicked calls from world leaders and emergency sessions with scientific advisors. What do our experts say about the authenticity? Dr. Phillips stepped forward. Every test we've run confirms it's real. The quantum transmission method, the universal translation capability, even the mathematical proofs they included to demonstrate their technology. This is genuine first contact with an alien civilization. And they want us to fight in some kind of war? The president asked. That's what it sounds like. They mentioned a threat to all civilized life, but they didn't provide details. It could be anything from space pirates to an invasion force. Admiral Bradley cleared his throat. Ma'am, I've been thinking about our response options. If we accept their invitation, we need to send our best people. Captain Morrison and his crew have the most experience with deep space operations. The Liberty is our most advanced ship, even if it probably looks like a toy to these aliens. Captain Jake Morrison was getting the same briefing from Admiral Bradley via secure communication aboard the Liberty, which was currently docked at the orbital station above Earth. His crew gathered around him in the ship's small conference room as he relayed the incredible news. So let me understand this, Danny Rodriguez said, his engineer's mind struggling with the implications. Aliens have been watching us. They think we're primitive, but they still want our help fighting something. Lisa Chung shook her head in amazement. This is like something out of a science fiction movie. Are we really going to fly out there and meet actual aliens? Amy Foster had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. Captain, remember those strange signals I detected during our asteroid survey? The patterns were too complex to be natural. I think they were scanning us. Jake nodded grimly. That makes sense. They've probably been studying us for months, maybe years. They know more about us than we know about them. The question is, Danny said, what can we possibly contribute to an advanced alien civilization? Our weapons are primitive, our ships are slow, our technology is thousands of years behind theirs. Maybe that's exactly what they need, Amy suggested. Maybe being primitive is an advantage somehow. Meanwhile, aboard Nexus Prime, the alien leaders were having their own debates about humanity's potential contribution. Ambassador Vextai stood before the emergency council session, addressing representatives from dozens of species. The human response has been predictably chaotic, he reported. Their governments cannot agree on a unified position. Some want to join us immediately, others suspect deception, and many seem paralyzed by the implications. General Krellin's red scales were darker than usual, a sign of extreme stress among his people. We are wasting time with these primitives while our enemy consumes entire star systems. The Devourers have destroyed 6 more civilizations since we sent the invitation. Dr. Lear On's ethereal form shimmered with concern. Perhaps we should reconsider. The humans may be too inexperienced for what lies ahead. This enemy has defeated our most advanced weapons. Commander Zareth's crystalline body reflected the emergency lighting as he spoke. We have tried everything. Our molecular disruptors cannot touch them. The Etherian phase technology passes harmlessly through their forms. Even the Zephyrian plasma cannons only seem to feed their growth. We need a new approach. And you think primitive humans can provide this new approach? General Krellin demanded. I think we are desperate enough to try anything, Zareth replied. Back on Earth, President Carter had made her decision. She stood before a joint session of Congress, with similar sessions being held in capitals around the world. The decision had to be unanimous among the major spacefaring nations, or humanity would decline the invitation. We stand at a crossroads in human history, she began. We can choose to remain isolated on our small world, wondering what might have been, or we can take our first steps into a larger universe. Yes, there are risks. Yes, we are being asked to contribute to a conflict we don't understand. But this is our chance to prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars. The vote was closer than anyone had expected, but it passed. Within hours, similar votes in other nations had reached the same conclusion. Humanity would accept the alien invitation. Captain Morrison received the orders while the Liberty was being hastily upgraded with the most advanced equipment Earth could provide. New communication arrays, improved weapon systems, additional life support equipment and experimental shield generators were installed in record time. This is it, he told his crew as they prepared for departure. We're about to represent our entire species to beings we can't even imagine. Everything we do out there reflects on all of humanity. Lisa ran her pre-flight checks with extra care. No pressure at all, right, Captain? Danny was nervous about the ship's new systems. I just hope all these upgrades actually work when we need them. Half of this equipment is still experimental. Amy was monitoring communication channels from around the world. Captain, I'm picking up messages of support from every continent. People are counting on us. The launch was broadcast globally, with billions of people watching as the Liberty departed Earth's orbit for an unknown destination. The coordinates provided by the aliens led to a point in deep space where no human had ever traveled. The journey took 2 weeks, even with their most advanced propulsion systems. When they finally arrived at the rendezvous point, what they saw took their breath away. Hundreds of alien ships filled the space around them, each one a masterpiece of advanced technology. Some looked like living creatures made of metal and light. Others appeared to be carved from single crystals the size of mountains. A few seemed to exist partially in normal space, and partially somewhere else entirely. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered, as she piloted the Liberty through the alien fleet. "We look like a rowboat in a marina full of yachts." The flagship Eternal Vigilance dwarfed every other ship in the fleet. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a structure that seemed to bend space around it as it moved. Docking was handled automatically by alien technology that took control of the Liberty with gentle precision. As the human crew prepared to meet their alien hosts, none of them could imagine how much their presence would change everything. A few days they would be tested in ways no human had ever been tested before, and the galaxy would discover that sometimes the most primitive species can possess the most powerful weapons of all. The briefing room aboard the Eternal Vigilance was larger than most buildings on Earth. Captain Morrison and his crew sat in specially designed chairs that had been quickly manufactured to accommodate human physiology. Around them, beings from across the galaxy filled the vast space with forms that challenged every assumption about what life could become. Ambassador Vextai stood at the center of the room, his forearms gesturing toward a massive holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas where entire star systems had been consumed, and the pattern of destruction was clearly moving toward the populated core worlds. "The enemy calls itself the Devourers," Vextai explained, his translated voice carrying perfectly to every being in the room. "They appeared 6 months ago at the galactic rim and have been consuming everything in their path. Planets, stars, space stations, entire civilizations, all converted to pure energy to fuel their advance." General Krellin stepped forward, his massive red form imposing even among the diverse alien assembly. "We have thrown everything at them, our most powerful weapons, our most advanced ships, our greatest warriors. Nothing has even slowed them down." Dr. Leron's ethereal form shimmered as she added her analysis. "The Devourers appear to exist in perfect mathematical harmony. Their movements follow precise geometric patterns. Their energy signatures maintain exact frequencies, and their consumption process operates with flawless efficiency." Commander Zareth's crystalline body caught and reflected the holographic light as he spoke. "My people's molecular manipulation technology passes through them as if they were not there. The Etherian phase-shifting ability cannot affect them. Even the Zephyrian plasma weapons seem to only feed their growth." Captain Morrison listened carefully, trying to process information that would have been pure fantasy just weeks ago. "What exactly are we dealing with? Are they machines, living beings, or something else?" "We believe they are both and neither," Dr. Leron replied. "They appear to be consciousness given form, existing as pure mathematical certainty made manifest in our reality." Lisa Chang raised her hand tentatively. "How big are they?" The holographic display zoomed in to show the latest battle footage. The Devourers appeared as massive geometric constructs, each one the size of a small moon. They moved through space with impossible grace, their crystalline forms pulsing with energy that seemed to bend space around them. "Each individual unit is approximately 50 kilometers in diameter," Vextai answered. "They travel in groups of 12, maintaining perfect formation at all times." Danny Rodriguez studied the images with an engineer's eye. "Their structure looks almost like a circuit board. but three-dimensional and alive. Amy Foster was monitoring the communication systems that had been provided for the human crew. I'm detecting massive amounts of data transmission between them. The patterns are incredibly complex but perfectly organized. The briefing continued for hours as alien commanders shared their failed strategies and devastating losses. The Tau Ceti system had been chosen as the next battleground, where the combined galactic fleet would make another attempt to stop the Devourer's advance. The plan is simple, General Krellin announced. We hit them with everything we have, all at once. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic that has ever worked against any enemy in galactic history. Captain Morrison couldn't help but notice that none of the alien commanders had asked for human input, or seemed particularly interested in what Earth's representatives might contribute. The Liberty had been assigned to the rear of the formation, well away from the main battle. With respect, sir, Morrison said, what exactly do you want us to do during this engagement? General Krellin's scales darkened slightly. Stay out of the way and observe. Your species is here to learn, not to fight. The journey to Tau Ceti took 3 days, during which the human crew tried to understand the alien technology around them and prepare for their first taste of interstellar warfare. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their advanced propulsion systems making the Liberty look like it was standing still. I feel like we're children being taken along on an adult expedition, Lisa said as she watched the elegant alien vessels through the viewports. Maybe that's exactly what we are, Danny replied. Look at their technology. They can manipulate matter at the molecular level, phase through solid objects, and travel faster than light as easily as we drive a car. Amy was still analyzing the communication patterns between the alien ships. Their coordination is incredible. Every ship knows exactly where every other ship is at all times. They move like a single organism. When they reached Tau Ceti, the scope of the threat became immediately apparent. The outer planets of the system were already gone, consumed by the geometric forms that pulsed with stolen energy. The Devourers hung in space like massive jewels, beautiful and terrifying in their perfect symmetry. Battle stations, came the command from the flagship. All units prepare for engagement. The alien fleet spread out in a complex formation that would have taken human commanders weeks to plan and coordinate. Within minutes, hundreds of ships had positioned themselves for maximum tactical advantage. The attack began with the crystalline collective's molecular disruptors, weapons that could break down matter at the atomic level. Beams of pure force lanced out toward the Devourers, striking with pinpoint accuracy. The result was not what anyone expected. The energy simply passed into the geometric forms and disappeared, as if the weapons had been fired into empty space. The Devourers didn't even acknowledge the attack. Phase 2, initiate, came the next command. The Etherian ships shimmered and disappeared, existing partially outside normal space-time as they attempted to attack the Devourers from dimensions they couldn't defend. The beautiful, translucent vessels passed directly through their targets, their exotic weapons having no effect whatsoever. All units, Phase 3, maximum firepower. General Krellin's voice carried a note of desperation. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts opened fire with plasma cannons that could vaporize small moons. The space around the Devourers lit up with energies that would have blinded unprotected eyes. For a moment, it seemed like the assault might be working. Then the terrible truth became apparent. The Devourers were absorbing every bit of energy, directed at them, growing larger and brighter with each passing second. The perfect geometric forms began to pulse faster, their crystalline structures expanding as they fed on the alien weapons. Retreat, came the order. All ships, immediate retreat. The alien fleet began to pull back in perfectly coordinated formations, but the Devourers were no longer passive targets. They began to move forward, their mathematical precision allowing them to anticipate and intercept the fleeing ships. Captain Morrison watched the disaster unfold from the Liberty's bridge. His crew was silent, stunned by the sight of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations being effortlessly defeated by an enemy that seemed immune to everything they could throw at it. "Captain," Amy said suddenly, "I'm picking up something strange." "What is it?" The Devourers pause when they encounter certain electromagnetic frequencies. It's only for microseconds, but it's consistent. Danny looked up from his engineering station. What kind of frequencies? Amy adjusted her instruments, trying to isolate the pattern. They match some of the old radio transmissions from Earth. Music, broadcasts, random communication signals. Lisa turned from her pilot station. Are you saying they react to our radio waves? It looks that way. Every time they encounter one of those chaotic frequencies, their perfect formation wavers slightly. Captain Morrison stared at the retreating alien fleet and the advancing Devourers. An idea was forming in his mind, one that would either save the day or get them all killed. Amy, can you broadcast on all human frequencies simultaneously? Yes, sir, but why would we want to do that? Morrison took a deep breath, knowing he was about to either prove human worth or destroy any chance his species had of joining the galactic community. Because I think we're about to discover what humans can contribute to this war. The emergency session aboard Nexus Prime had been going on for 18 hours. Dr. Lear An floated near the central display, her ethereal form flickering with exhaustion as she tried to explain what had happened at Tau Ceti. Around her, the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy struggled to understand how a primitive human ship had accomplished what their most advanced weapons could not. The electromagnetic pattern analysis is conclusive, she said, her voice like wind chimes, in a gentle breeze. When the human vessel broadcast their chaotic frequencies, the Devourer's perfect geometric forms began to destabilize. Dr. Susan Phillips sat in a specially designed chair next to the floating Etherian scientist. She had been brought to the station via emergency transport after the battle, and her presence marked the first time a human had been allowed into the galactic scientific community's inner circle. Our brain patterns produce naturally chaotic electromagnetic signatures, Phillips explained, her words being translated into dozens of alien languages simultaneously. What you call disorder, we call creativity. What you see as inefficiency, we see as adaptability. Ambassador Vextai's forearms moved nervously as he studied the data streams flowing across the screens. This challenges everything we understand about intelligence and advancement. How can chaos be more effective than order? Commander Zareth's crystalline form pulsed with confused energy patterns. My people have spent millions of years perfecting our molecular manipulation technology. We eliminated randomness, chaos, and unpredictability from our systems. You are telling us this was a mistake? General Krellin stood in the corner, his red scales darker than anyone had ever seen them. The proud Zephyrian warrior was struggling with the implications of what had happened. A species that still uses chemical rockets defeated an enemy that destroyed our greatest fleets? Dr. Phillips pulled up holographic displays showing human brain activity patterns. Look at these neural pathways. Where your species develop along lines of increasing order and efficiency, humans evolved through conflict, contradiction, and constant change. Our thoughts jump randomly from idea to idea, making connections that purely logical minds would never consider. But this should make you less effective, not more, Dr. Lear An protested. Chaos leads to confusion, inefficiency, and failure. Usually, yes, Phillips agreed. But when facing an enemy that exists in perfect mathematical harmony, chaos becomes the one thing they cannot predict or counter. Meanwhile, back at Tau Ceti, the human crew of the Liberty was discovering just how powerful their chaotic nature could be. Captain Morrison had ordered Amy Foster to broadcast everything she could think of on all human frequencies simultaneously. The result had been a cacophony of sound that hurt human ears, but seemed to cause the Devourers physical pain. Rock music, jazz, classical, country, blues, folk songs, news broadcasts, sports commentary, radio dramas, and emergency signals. Amy reported as she worked at her station. I'm throwing everything at them. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and dramatic. Their perfect formations began to waver and break apart as they encountered frequencies that followed no mathematical pattern. The geometric constructs that had seemed invincible now struggled to maintain their shape. Lisa, take us closer, Morrison ordered. I want to see how they react to direct exposure. Are you sure about this, Captain? Lisa asked as she piloted the Liberty toward the confused Devourers. If this doesn't work, we'll be vaporized in seconds, I'm not sure about anything anymore, Morrison admitted, but I think we've found something important here. As the Liberty approached, Amy increased the power of her broadcasts. The chaotic human transmissions flooded space around the Devourers, and the effect was unlike anything the aliens had ever witnessed. The perfect geometric forms began to twist and distort, their mathematical certainty crumbling in the face of pure randomness. Danny Rodriguez watched the engineering displays with amazement. "Captain, their energy signatures are fluctuating wildly. It's like they can't process what they're receiving." "That's because they can't," Morrison realized. "They exist as perfect order, perfect harmony, perfect predictability. Our chaos is like a virus in their system." The alien fleet, which had been retreating in perfect formation, suddenly stopped. Every ship in the massive armada turned to watch the small human vessel as it continued its unprecedented assault on the supposedly invincible enemy. "This is impossible," General Krellin's voice came over the communication system. "What are they doing to them?" "They are being human," Dr. Liron responded from Nexus Prime, where she was watching the battle feed with growing excitement. "They are showing us what we lost when we became too civilized, too ordered, too perfect." Back on Nexus Prime, the HFY scientific analysis was revealing even more startling truths about humanity's unique nature. Dr. Phillips had connected her own brain to the station's monitoring equipment, allowing the alien scientists to observe human neural activity in real time. "Watch what happens when I try to solve a problem," she said, then began working on a complex mathematical equation. The display showed her thoughts jumping chaotically from solution to solution, trying approaches that seemed completely random. "This is madness," Commander Zareth observed. "Your mind considers dozens of incorrect solutions before finding the right one." "Exactly," Phillips said with a smile. "But in considering all those wrong solutions, I also discover possibilities that purely logical thinking would never explore. That's how humans innovate, how we adapt, how we survive." The implications were staggering. Every alien species in the galaxy had evolved toward greater order, efficiency, and logical thinking. They had eliminated the random, chaotic elements that they saw as primitive and wasteful. In doing so, they had also eliminated their ability to think truly outside the box. The Devourers represent the ultimate expression of this philosophy, Dr. Liron realized. They are perfect order, perfect efficiency, perfect logic. They consume other civilizations because they cannot comprehend any form of existence that isn't mathematically ideal. And humans represent the opposite, Phillips added. We are creative chaos, beautiful randomness, productive disorder. We are everything the Devourers cannot understand or absorb. At Tau Ceti, the battle was reaching a turning point. More human ships had arrived from Earth, a motley collection of vessels representing every nation and corporation that had managed to reach space. Unlike the elegant alien fleets, the human ships looked like they had been built in different centuries by completely different species. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Bradley aboard the UES Washington," came a transmission from the newly arrived fleet. "We brought everything we could scrape together. What are your orders?" Morrison looked at his ragtag fleet of human vessels and realized that their very diversity was a weapon. "All ships, begin broadcasting. I want every radio station, every music collection, every podcast, every piece of audio you can find. Fill space with human noise." The result was beautiful chaos. Dozens of human ships broadcasting thousands of different signals created an electromagnetic storm of pure randomness. The Devourers, faced with more chaotic input than their perfect minds could process, began to break apart at a fundamental level. "Their quantum coherence is collapsing," Amy reported with excitement. "They can't maintain their perfect order in the face of so much chaos." But the most amazing discovery was yet to come. As the Devourers struggled with the chaotic human transmissions, something unexpected began to happen. Instead of simply being destroyed, they began to change. "Captain," Lisa called out from her station, "look at the long-range sensors. The Devourers aren't dying, they're transforming." The perfect geometric forms were indeed changing, becoming less regular, less mathematically pure. For the first time, In their existence, the Devourers were experiencing something they had never known: the possibility of imperfection, of randomness, of growth through chaos. "They're learning," Dr. Phillips whispered from Nexus Prime as she watched the impossible transformation. "They're discovering what it means to be more than perfect order." The galaxy was about to learn that the day humans shocked everyone was just the beginning of a much larger transformation. The final confrontation took place at the galactic core, where the Devourers had spent months building something that defied comprehension. The massive construct surrounded the central black hole like a geometric web, its crystalline strands reaching across millions of kilometers of space. If completed, it would allow them to consume the galaxy's gravitational anchor itself. Admiral Tom Bradley stood on the bridge of the UES Washington, watching as ships from every corner of human space arrived for the battle. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, research ships, military destroyers, and even converted passenger liners had answered the call. The human fleet looked like a junkyard compared to the elegant alien armadas, but Bradley had learned that appearances could be deceiving. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Bradley," he broadcast on all channels. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of chaos to exist in an ordered universe. Every ship, every voice, every random thought in your heads is a weapon against an enemy that cannot understand what it means to be beautifully, gloriously imperfect." Captain Morrison piloted the Liberty through the assembled human fleet, marveling at the diversity of vessels that had come together for this moment. Each ship was different, built by different companies, different nations, different philosophies of what a spacecraft should be. The randomness was perfect. "Captain," Amy Foster reported from her communication station, "I'm reading massive energy buildup from the alien fleets. They're preparing for a coordinated assault. Around them, the combined forces of dozens of galactic civilizations moved into position. The crystalline collective's molecular manipulators gleamed like living diamonds. The Etherian phase ships shimmered between dimensions. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts bristled with enough firepower to crack planets. This time will be different," General Krellin declared over the command frequency. "We understand the enemy now. We know that order alone cannot defeat them." Dr. Lyron's voice joined the communication from her position aboard the science vessel Harmony. "The human chaos carriers are in position. When their signals destabilize the Devourer formations, we strike with conventional weapons." But Dr. Susan Phillips, now serving as chief chaos theorist aboard Nexus Prime, had discovered something that would change the nature of the battle entirely. Her research into Devourer psychology had revealed a truth that shocked even her. "Admiral Bradley, this is Dr. Phillips," she transmitted to the human fleet commander. "The Devourers aren't evil. They're not trying to destroy the galaxy out of malice. They're doing it because they literally cannot conceive of any other way to exist." "What do you mean, Doctor?" Bradley asked. "They evolved to perfect mathematical order. Consuming other civilizations isn't an aggressive act for them. It's a desperate attempt to make the universe conform to the only pattern they can understand. They're trying to save reality from what they see as chaos and corruption." Captain Morrison listened to this revelation, while watching the massive construct around the black hole pulse with stolen energy. "So they think they're the good guys?" "They think they're the only guys," Phillips replied. "They cannot conceive of intelligence that isn't perfectly ordered. To them, all other life forms are mathematical errors that need to be corrected." The battle began with the alien fleets launching their coordinated assault. Weapons that could reshape matter at the quantum level, phase technology that existed in multiple dimensions, and plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars, all focused on the Devourer construct. The effect was immediate. The geometric web around the black hole began to buckle and warp as the alien weapons found their mark. But the Devourers had learned from their previous encounters. They began to adapt, their perfect forms shifting to become more resistant to the ordered assault. "Human vessels, begin chaos broadcast," Admiral Bradley ordered. The response was everything the galaxy had come to expect from humanity. Every ship began transmitting something different. The cargo hauler New Sydney broadcast Australian folk music. The mining vessel Iron Mountain played American blues. The research ship Carl Sagan transmitted a mix of scientific lectures and children's Laughter. But the most effective broadcast came from an unexpected source. The converted passenger liner Hope carried refugees from a dozen different human colonies, and they had decided to contribute in their own way. "All ships, this is Captain Maria Santos aboard the Hope," came a transmission that made everyone stop and listen. "We have 3,000 passengers from 47 different cultures aboard this ship. They want to sing." What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. 3,000 human voices singing 3,000 different songs in dozens of languages, all at the same time. Lullabies mixed with war chants, opera blended with heavy metal, children's rhymes harmonized with ancient prayers. The effect on the Devourers was devastating. Their perfect geometric forms began to collapse as they encountered the most chaotic, beautiful, impossible to categorize noise in the universe, the sound of humanity expressing itself. "Their quantum coherence is breaking down completely," Amy reported from the Liberty. "The construct is starting to fall apart." But something else was happening, something that would change the course of galactic history. As the Devourer forms collapsed under the assault of human chaos, they didn't simply die. They began to transform in ways that no one had thought possible. "Look, at the sensors," Lisa called out from her pilot station. "The Devourers are becoming individual units instead of a collective consciousness." Dr. Phillips watched the transformation from Nexus Prime with growing amazement. They're developing individuality. The chaos is teaching them that perfection isn't the only way to exist. The massive construct around the black hole was indeed falling apart, but not through destruction. The perfect geometric patterns were breaking down into smaller, more random configurations. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers were experiencing what it meant to be unique, individual, imperfect. "This is Commander Zareth," came a transmission from the Crystalline Fleet. "The Devourers are transmitting on multiple frequencies. It sounds like they're trying to communicate." Amy Foster worked frantically at her communication station, trying to decode the alien transmissions. "Captain, I think they're asking questions. They want to know what's happening to them." "Put me on all frequencies," Morrison ordered. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. You are experiencing individuality for the first time. You are learning that existence doesn't require perfect order." The response came as a flood of transmissions from hundreds of individual Devourer units, each one now capable of independent thought. Their questions came in mathematical patterns that the ship's computers could barely translate. "Why do we feel separate now?" one asked. "What is this sensation of wanting different things?" another inquired. "How can imperfection be more beautiful than perfection?" a third wondered. Dr. Phillips provided the answer that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of intelligence itself. Because growth requires change, and change requires the possibility of imperfection. You have discovered what every other species learns eventually, that the journey is more important than the destination. The battle ended not with victory or defeat, but with transformation. The Devourers, now individuals rather than a collective consciousness, withdrew to the galactic rim to explore their newfound ability to think, feel, and choose as separate beings. 6 months later, Ambassador Vexatai stood before the full Galactic Council, preparing to make a declaration that would be remembered for millennia. Captain Morrison and his crew sat in the front row, representing not just Earth, but a new understanding of what intelligence could become. "Today we learned that advancement is not just about becoming more ordered, more efficient, more perfect," Vextai announced to the assembled representatives of dozens of species. "We learned that chaos, creativity, and beautiful randomness are not flaws to be corrected, but strengths to be celebrated." Dr. Liron floated beside him, her ethereal form shimmering with new understanding. "The humans have taught us that the galaxy needs not just order, but chaos, not just efficiency, but creativity, not just perfection, but the beautiful randomness that makes growth possible." General Krellin, his red scales now bright with health and hope, added his own declaration. "The Zephyrian Empire formally requests human advisors to help us rediscover the creative chaos we lost in our pursuit of military perfection." Commander Zareth's crystalline form pulsed with new patterns of light. The Crystalline Collective wishes to establish joint research programs with human chaos theorists. President Helen Carter, participating via quantum transmission from Earth, addressed the assembly with pride. Humanity accepts full membership in the Galactic Council. We look forward to a future where order and chaos work together to create something neither could achieve alone. The ceremony concluded with something unprecedented in galactic history. 3,000 voices from the passenger liner, Hope, now permanently stationed at Nexus Prime, sang a song that had no words, no structure, no mathematical pattern. It was pure human expression, beautiful in its imperfection. As the last notes faded into the station's corridors, every being present understood that the day humans shocked the galaxy was not an ending but a beginning.